I wanted to highlight the transition from the Vedic paradigm through Upanishadic to Samkhya. And that transition is kind of important for us because it gives us a sense or understanding what has happened during this long period of time of thousands of years. Yes, as we already mentioned before, that transition took place from Samhita period, which was like 2500 minimum BC, to 2000 or 1500 BC with Brahmanas. There was a big gap between the Samhita and Brahmana period. And then finally there was an attempt to capture the knowledge of the Samhitas in a new fashion already, and that was the Upanishads. And as Sri Aurobindo says, the Upanishads were more focused on building their own system than trying to explain the Samhita texts, though they referred to Samhitas as the most important, as the supreme knowledge. So we looked through these, Adhibhuta, Adhidaiva, and Adhyatma. We saw this, so our consciousness can be turned either without or within. And we kind of highlighted what the Vedantic yoga was, yoga of the Upanishadic rishis. So the connection between the inner and outer could be established through the faculties of consciousness or senses, indriyas, which become consciously passive, as Sri Aurobindo says, and receive the inner light and bring the inner light to the surface. I'm just kind of recapturing what we did already. On this ground, later in the mental structure of consciousness, a new vision or a new kind of philosophy comes into being, which was already there in the Upanishads, but it was not totally formulated, and that is Samkhya. Sri Aurobindo speaks about the ancient Samkhya of Kapila and of the Gita. So there is Samkhya in the Gita, but it was a different type of Samkhya. It wasn't yet the atheistic Samkhya as we know it in the later period. Traditional. So if we look at the how consciousness operates on adhyatmic level, on the adhidaivic level, and on the adhibhuta level, we already touched upon this. So the faculties in Samkhya were seen as those, the indriyas, yes, which were totally dependent on the mind, the sixth sense, and were applying mind with information, supplying mind with information, manas, giving him the perception of, or the material for the mind to choose on what to focus. We spoke about this, that the mind, manas, is the capacity of consciousness to focus consciousness on any object of sense. And so this object of sense was supplied by the indriyas, and by hearing, seeing, and so on. And so mind could select what it wants to focus on. It is by manas that the eye sees, ear hears, and so on. This is from Yajnavalkya. It is already in the Upanishads, but not yet formulated in the 25 tattvas of Samkhya. This is Samkhya. 25 tattvas, that means Purusha and Pradhana or Prakriti. There are two names for Prakriti. And these two are eternal, Purusha and Prakriti, according to Samkhya. They are always there. And if Purusha does not, yes, there is one Prakriti, one Pradhana, and many Purushas in the classical Samkhya, but not in the Samkhya of the Gita. In the Samkhya of the Gita, there is also Purusha, universal Purusha, and there are individual Purushas, and there is Purushottama. So in Samkhya there is no universal Purusha, there are only individual souls, and there is Prakriti. And these are eternal. So when Purusha attends to Pradhana, to Prakriti, she starts mixing up her gunas.
Vladimir, you're muted. Vladimir is on the phone, I think. Oh. Are you sure?
1 second, sorry for this, yeah.
Okay.
Sorry guys, this is the dental work, which is very rare that they call me back. So sorry. Well, appointments with dentists, they are so fixed, so many things. So sorry for this. Anyhow, back to the Samkhya. I see Jayashree joined. Hi, Jayashree. So the idea was that the Purusha attends to Prakriti. Yes, there are many Purushas. They attend to Prakriti. Prakriti starts mixing Rajas, Tamas, and Sattva, and that mixture creates the worlds. Nothing is said how Purusha attends to Prakriti, what it really means. We do not know what it is. We imagine that it is witness. What is this witnessing? What is attending? What is looking at Prakriti? What does it really imply? But what it implies when the Purusha does it, when he extends his attention, his consciousness, and Purusha is consciousness. Later in the classical literature, we will find that Purusha is synonymous with Atman, but they are very different in the Vedantic literature, in the Upanishads. Purusha represents consciousness, Atman represents the being. So the being and consciousness. Purusha is the Lord, Atman is the self and the Lord, as Sri Aurobindo says. These two elements of one being. There is being who is conscious, and the consciousness is Purusha, the being is the self, Atman. So when the attention of consciousness of the self, of being, attends to his own pradhana, to this infinite pradhana, Prakriti, she starts moving. Their relations are more of the kind, of course, Samkhya didn't want to specify that they are one and the same, that there is no Purusha and Prakriti as separate beings. Samkhya defines them as separate beings, yes, as if they exist infinitely in their own way, as it were. Eternal beings. Irreducible. All these are irreducible elements, by the way, which are called tattvas. There are 25 tattvas, of which Purusha and Prakriti are part. Yeah? You can count them. So you have 20 here, 5, 5, 5, 5, and you have 5 here, Purusha, Pradhana, Buddhi, Ahamkara, and Manas. 25 tattvas. So 25 irreducible elements. So when Purusha attends, she starts mixing her 3 major movements of our nature. It is Rajas, the energy, which takes Tamas, the inertia, and by mixing these two, we get something like Sattva. Or let us say Sattva is the presence, is the quality of Purusha, which is kind of manifested in the Rajas and Tamas, if you will. Or let us say there are 3 independently existing in Prakriti, and they get mixed up. Whatever way you think will be partially right. There is also, I was mentioning this before, in the occultism, in the Christian mysticism, there is also this thinking. There are 3 major letters of the mother in the occultism, and this is Aleph, Mem, and Shin. It is number 1, 13, and 21. Notice the numbers are very sacred numbers. Yeah? 1, 13, 21. 13 is death, 1 is 1 always, and 21 is the very powerful number, 3 times 7. So these are the major letters of the mother, and interestingly, the Shin is the fire, Rajas, Mem is the Tamas, death is Tamas, and 1, Aleph, The first letter is sattva. So here we have this kind of 3 letters which build up the whole system of manifestation. Very similar to what we have in Indian tradition. It actually tells us something, that there was pre-Chaldean and pre-Vedic tradition which was same, because we find the same elements, the same way of thinking in another totally different Semitic tradition. And in later Christianity, they spoke about 3 major things. There's free will, it is rajas, karma or rock, the fate is tamas, something which is already happened, and free will, it's something which is not yet happened. And finally, on the top of this triangle, we have providence. And providence is interesting because it is something which supports either the free will or something which is already engraved in stone, the rock, the fate, something what happened. So if providence is on the side of the rock, of the fate, then a will cannot win the case, free will. If the providence is on the side of the free will, then we can change karma. We can change the destiny. So this fight between rajas and tamas is also in the occultistic tradition, in the Kabbalistic tradition of the Semitic system of knowledge. Interestingly, or in a simplistic way, how they explain it, if you put water, tamas, on the fire, rajas, it will evaporate, sattva. This is the simplistic way of understanding. So sattva somehow includes both rajas and tamas. Somehow. So it can support either rajas or tamas, and in that sense, rajas becomes more powerful or tamas becomes more powerful. This division is actually also seen in Samkhya. If you go deeper into Samkhya, we will see that they split them. Tamasic become tammatras and mahabhutas, tamasic formations, formations in which the consciousness will be embodied, and the sattvic part will become Indriyas and Karmandrius, whereas Ahamkara will hang as the rajas. It's all, I think, a little bit artificial and not totally thought out. Absolutely. But as a scheme of thinking, it is good enough. So there is, you know this, Samkhya, you know quite well, yes? The first result of this mixture will be Buddhi, pure reason. That means the mind beyond senses. Mind which is not operating by the information of Indriyas. It is conceptual mind, thinking by ideas, concepts, and not by what it is being supplied by the Indriyas. It's not the perception, it's conception rather. So whereas manas is more sense mind or mind of perception, it perceives what is there being supplied by the Indriyas. And in between we have Ahamkara, ego sense. I guess Praveen will be entering with his corrections on the Samkhya because he was waiting for Samkhya. Now he has the opportunity to speak on it. Yes, Praveen.
Yeah, Vladimir. I mean, this is too old, me actually. But I was wondering on the previous points you have made, because you started by making the difference between Atman and consciousness, I think, which is very important. And I wanted to understand that more.
Yeah, because Samkhya is known to you well. Usually Samkhya is well known to everyone who studied Indian philosophy. Yes, it's something which is inbuilt in every system, in tantra, in everywhere. In yoga, so everybody is implying Samkhya to be the foundation. Yes. Yes, and the difference between Purusha and Atman is actually in the Upanishads and in the Samhitas. You will not find it later. Later they are kind of mixed up. So you can have Annamaya Purusha or Annamaya Atma. You can have both as synonyms in a way, but as it is in Taittiriya, for example. But still, if you look even into Taittiriya, you will find very interesting kind of definition. Let me open Taittiriya for you. This is what you want to clarify? Difference between Atman and Purusha?
And also, I mean, the scheme that you have explained here, because is it also correct to understand that there are different traditions, Vladimir, which interpret Samkhya in different ways? Because I have seen also, for example, Pradhana could be Chitta. Also, is one of the additional element that I saw. For example, Kala is also included as an additional element in some of the systems. And you also clarified that in the later Samkhya, the universal Purusha is not there, which I understand.
Yes, it is not there. Samkhya is a theistic system. It does not believe in God. Yes, yeah. It's quite amazing. Yeah. So, though it operates by two eternal foundations of Purusha and Prakriti, still it is atheistic. There is eternal soul, but there is no God behind. Yeah.
So another question I had in my mind was really, what is the science of the construction of an experience in Samkhya? It is not clear, for example, what is really the perceiver? Is it the mind? Is it the intelligence? Is it the Ahamkara? Is it the Atma? Or is it the consciousness? And the very construction of that experience, Vladimir. Of course, this is a big debate in major...
Very good question. Actually, I was hoping that we will arrive at this, that I just started my kind of laying out the basics, because without them, it is very difficult to proceed if you don't understand where it is coming from. Yes. So, but it is true, that question, who is attending, why, how Purusha attends to Prakriti, what it means, actually, we do not know. Yeah. How his consciousness is. So, as Mother and Sri Aurobindo's mother spoke, yeah, without him, I exist not. Mother actually doesn't like, in our tradition of integral yoga, to make the distinction between Purusha and Prakriti. She says that Prakriti is a part of Purusha, and we will see it later. It is totally true that Prakriti is not something which exists beyond the Purusha. Though it is it's an easier way to explain things to the mind. Yeah? Otherwise, the mind will be wondering how come they are one and the same, and at the same time they are different. So to avoid that question, we speak about these two infinite realities. So even in her statement, without him, Purusha, I, Prakriti, exist not, and without me, he is unmanifest. Yeah. So that makes totally sense. When Prakriti falls into equilibrium without attention of Purusha, she disappears. Well, how disappears? In a way, she disappears in him. Yeah? She becomes part of his own kind of existence, as it were. But when he attends to her, so to say, it's another way of speaking, as if she was there waiting for him to attend to herself, she starts moving and manifesting him. So this attention of his is the Sakshi. He is a Sakshi of everything what is happening in Prakriti, and he is Anumanta. He gives sanctions to what is happening in Prakriti, and we already discussed a bit as providence. He gives actually a sanction either to free will, to Rajas or Tamas or something, and something is going on there. But what is that attention? We do not know. And this attention is expressed here in Indriyas. We can see hearing, touch, sight, taste, smell. Yes, we have 5 Jnanendriyas who represent Purusha actually in Prakriti. It is Purusha's seeing, it is Purusha's hearing, it is Purusha's speaking, moving. It is him. That means without his attention, without his consciousness present in Prakriti, there would be no hearing, there would be no 5 Indriyas. And it's amazing because Indriyas is a word which carries that origin of Indra. Indra is the divine mind. Yeah? It is him who actually manifested the Purusha in this functionality for manifestation. Purusha is the being which was created, according to the Upanishads, for the sake of functioning in manifestation. So Atman without Purusha could not function in manifestation, in time and space. It needed Purusha. Yeah? So according to Aitareya, Atman pulled out Purusha from the lower waters, heated him up, and faculties of consciousness broke forth, and they started the manifestation. So that is what we call sacrifice of Purusha. Purusha's faculties were offered to the inconscient ocean to start the manifestation, to start building the bodies. So that's how Purusha represents consciousness. In the Taittiriya they say Purusha Vidha. Yes, it is in the form of Purusha that Atman is manifested as material, vital, mental, supramental, and transcendental Anandamaya. Atma is manifested in the form of Purusha. Now, this form of Purusha is important. Yes? So it is hearing, seeing. These are the Indriyas here. They are building the body. This body of Purusha embodies the faculties of seeing, hearing, speaking, thinking, feeling, touching, moving. Yeah? It's him. It's his faculties, which Prakriti manifests. So what he attends to her with is everything Prakriti manifests. This is an amazing thing. And mainly these Indriyas, Jnanendriyas.
Vladimir, I have a question. How come this Purusha was pulled out from the inconscience?
Well, it's a difficult question. I have no answer to it. But intuitively, you can keep this question. And it is good that it is there at the back of your mind always. How come that Purusha? But you have to know the text. You have to see that Apas and Ambhas, they are higher supreme waters and lower inconscient waters. And why Atman pulled it from the lower waters, heated it up, and then you will see how all his faculties broke forth. His mouth broke forth from the mouth, Agni from speech Agni. His nostrils broke forth from his nostrils, prana from prana vayu. His eyes broke forth from eyes. He seeing from seeing, sun was born, light. His ears broke forth from ears, hearing from hearing, dishaha, the directions. His tvak broke forth, his skin broke forth from skin, the oshadhi vanaspatayaha, what is that? Touch, and from touch, the greenery came into being as a universal. Yeah, that's all the greenery. His heart broke forth from heart, the mind Manas, and from the Manas Chandra, the moon was born, Soma, and his navel broke forth from the navel Apana, from Apana, Mrityu, death. His Shishna was broke forth. Shishna is procreatory organ. From procreatory organ, Retas, the seed, and from Retas, Apas, lower waters. Now, why I came up to lower waters? Because Retas, that foundation for manifestation, is somewhere in the lower waters. Now, there's something to intuitively get. There is no way to explain it to the mind or something, to make it philosophical. It's just an intuition which is true. Yeah? And it has to kind of help us in understanding of the world, how it is. Why through the seed, through Retas, the embodiment into the formation of the matter, it takes place. Yeah, so he has to be material, yeah, and not just Purusha, that Purusha, the universal without the body.
Thank you, thank you.
Right, and if we look here, we see similar thing. We see from hearing, touch, sight, taste, smell. We come down to the apas and prithvi. We come to the lower procreatory, excretory organs. These are the lowest in our body, in our torso. We have also legs and hands and speech. These are all the Karmandrius which are acting upon the outer being. Yes? We are acting through the word, we communicate through sound, through expression of ourselves, of our wish. We express ourselves through hands, touching, pushing, catching, giving. Yeah? These hands are very important. And then we have pada, which are communicating us with other world by moving us, this body everywhere. Yeah? And then we procreate, we leave progeny, interestingly, and we cast out everything what we don't need in our body, which we took in, and whatever is not needed, cast out. It's also something we leave behind. In the animal kingdom, it is a very important thing. They are always, marking their own presence through these excretory, leftovers here and there. They're pissing or something. By that they recognize the territory. They're marking the territory physically by this. So this is also action upon the world. And you see the Karmandrius are those senses of action of this body, embodied state, which are acting upon the other beings. And there is no other. There are only 5 of these. Just think about it, how brilliantly the Samkhya captured this. There is no other action upon the world from this body. Only these 5. If you want to act upon the outer world, these will be the 5. And they are somehow matching with the Indriyas, Jnanendriyas. Yeah? Well, maybe not totally directly, but indirectly, meaningfully, they are matching. There is hearing in speech, yes, somehow. Hearing is more perceptive or receptive, and Vach is more active, proactive on the world. Yeah. So if I want to hear, the animals are always hearkening, they're always listening carefully. Yeah. Our cats are the smallest noise, they're immediately attending. Touch, also receptive, sight, receptive or perceptive, taste and smell. That's what we do, all major indriyas, 5 indriyas. And they are kind of amazingly correspond to 5 major elements: Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Apas and Prithvi. Yeah, it's quite clear. And behind them there are tanmatras, those elements which build these mahabhutas. and that is the state of the being in ethereal, aerial, fiery, liquid, and solid state. Sri Aurobindo beautifully describes the unfolding of these elements. It's like you add always one more dimension. If the akasha, ether, hearing, speech is one-dimensional, then this vibration in the ether, yes, this kind of, and then this vibration meets another vibration, it creates a touch, two-dimensional. It's like you are folding the same vibration onto itself, and it creates a touch. And then if you fold it one more time, make a knot out of it, not just touch, but turn it onto itself, it will create the knot in the ether, which will generate light, heat, and that will be sight. And if you make one more dimension, it will add one more. It will become a substance without the form, and that is liquidity. And that liquidity, substance without the form, uninterrupted substance without the form any form can take, will be made gross on the level of Prithvi and separate itself from other form. If water is not separating itself, stays with the same bulk of substance, then form can stand away from the substance. So these are the 5 elements. It's well known. I just didn't want even to dwell on them today, but I wanted to say that Purusha's attention to Prakriti is resulting in these Indriyas because they represent the Purusha. They are the Purusha. So Prakriti is rebuilding Purusha in the time and space in the form of matter. And so when he attends, he sends his faculties into her. He is not only attending by seeing, he is attending by all his faculties. All these faculties which came out of him, they all plunged into the inconscient ocean. And from there they started their journey. They cried out to him, create for us a dwelling place in which we can stay. Because that inconscient ocean was for them bodiless, and they were tortured there by hunger and thirst. They didn't have the place to stay. So slowly from monocellular organism, in that monocellular organism, in that one cell tries to communicate, tries to see, tries to express itself, tries to move. There are no yet organs, to move, to speak, to think, but they are all faculties are there, inbuilt already in that cell. And slowly that cell starts moving, combining itself with other cells, comes into clusters, and slowly it builds all the organs necessary for functioning of Purusha. And from that monocellular organism, over the period of billions of years of evolution, we arrive at this form of human being, where there is brain, nervous system, eyes, tongue, heart, feeling. All the faculties are inbuilt, and the organs are still developing, becoming more and more sensitive or receptive of Purusha's presence. This is how he acts upon her. And she is doing his work. It seems that though I wanted to just touch upon this, here we can see also that Manas is operating by these 2 Indriyas, Jnanendriyas and Karmandrius. Sri Aurobindo has more to say on Karmandrius. We spoke about this in another session somewhere, yes? That these are panis of the Veda. And these are the senses of action which evolved from the inconscient. And because they evolved from the inconscient, they do not know how to offer themselves to the divine. They're not direct, so to say, representatives of the divine. They are indirect representatives of the divine through inconscient. And because of that, they only grab the light. The other day we were reading in Savitri, it was an amazing revelation for me. Somehow I never thought of it, that the inconscient also tries to evolve. And Sri Aurobindo describes this there. It tries to raise itself up. And by rising up, it wants more light from above. And it grabs the light and puts it into the subconscious cave, stores it there. It doesn't know what to do with it. It wants it, but it doesn't know what really to do with this. So these are the Karmandrius. Karmandrius are those panis, the protectors of that subconscious cave. They want the light. They want to be more and more efficient in their actions, but they do not know what that light represents. They do not know the real value of that light. I do not know whether it is even conceivable for you, Praveen or Robin, because it's the language which Aurobindo coined, yes? And in this way, you can see that whenever the actions of these 5 Karmandriyas is activated, we lose the perception of light. So that's how they steal. The moment we start moving with our hands or running or doing all these activities of Karmandriyas, even speech, we lose that deeper perception of light. By the way, the situation has changed, evolutionary changed, after Sri Aurobindo and the mother. Especially Sri Aurobindo was bringing that light into the legs. When he was meditating, he was walking for years in his room, walking very powerfully. People heard how he was making powerful steps, not just walking silently, but boom, boom, he was walking, putting light into this Karmandriya of Pada, feet. That the light had to come into the body. And hands and speech. Speech he actually quite conquered, illumined. Now we can speak and be in the highest state of consciousness. That's what happened to all those speakers like Shraddha or Alok. When we listen to their speech, we can meditate. And they are also falling in some kind of trance or meditative state. Yeah. So speech has conquered certain capacity of inner light. Padas also, we can walk. We have walking meditations, very popular nowadays, which was not the case before at all. Meditation was possible only by sitting and, closing your eyes, stop breathing, stop thinking. That was meditation. But now you have walking meditation. Because the situation has changed, because these great beings like Sri Aurobindo and the mother brought the light into the body. We did not conquer it on the level of procreatory, excretory organs. These are the most difficult ones. They are actually blocking a lot, and that's why the Brahmacharya was introduced as a major power for if you want to reach the divine or realize higher levels of consciousness. Brahmacharya is the must, because it was totally destroying everything which was gained in meditation. But Tantra, for example, Vama Marga, dared to go even that way and to take this action and offer it to the divine. Even there they tried to do this. So there were many attempts to change the Karmandrius, that they should not steal the light, because Panis are the traffickers, the traders, and they are the thieves. They steal our inner light and put it into the subconscious cave. Why? Because the subconscious or inconscient also is evolving and trying to catch the light, as Sri Aurobindo says in Savitri. It's amazing. It wants the light. That's why it is taken into the darkness. Because it wants to be enlightened, but it cannot totally be enlightened yet. So it just grabs it and puts it there. The darkness is much greater than the light which comes. So the whole secret of the Veda is built on this, that the forces of light will come and destroy that cavern, that subconscious cave, Vala, its name is Vala, and all the treasures of that previous evolution of consciousness will be finally released. So the herds of the sun, everything which was accumulated by the darkness over this long period, and this darkness was building up Karmandrius by that. Karmandrius are the result of that storage of light within the darkness. So you see, there's much more here with these Karmandrius. They are a mysterious formation of evolution, of building the body, and they have to become now more and more self-aware, so to say, and should not obstruct the perception of the inner light. So this is the future. Karma Yoga is one of those devices which could help our Karmandrius not to obstruct our inner light. Yes?
Vladimir, this seems to be similar to what you had mentioned previously about Varuna in the later period. But in the Vedic tradition, you said Varuna has a totally different description.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah, because Varuna later, all these godheads, transcendental godheads, which are working for transformation, they lost their luminosity. Sun itself became some kind of secondary deity, and the whole overmind disappears, and supermind becomes non-existent. So the whole region of those activities of the gods becomes irrelevant, because the whole direction of getting knowledge changed. So there was a direction to jump into the transcendental and dissolve oneself in it, instead of transforming the nature. Samkhya is a remnant of this transformation of nature, in a way. So you can see that to really make this body work, you need more and more power of Purusha. But then it got frozen in this mental structure, and so the idea would be to separate Purusha from Prakriti and leave Prakriti unembodying, not acting at all, disappearing. So this ideal of moksha, or mukti, is of a later time, when they saw that transformation of the body is becoming so difficult, nearly impossible. Yeah.
So Vladimir, I'm not able to understand, why is Atman not mentioned here? I understand by Purusha you are referring to consciousness, correct? In this scheme?
Consciousness of the self, yes.
When
Purusha does not exist without Atman. Atman is the being, Purusha is his consciousness.
So that is understood, that Atman is there and Purusha is the being,
Yeah.
Purusha is the consciousness.
Yes. Purusha is the consciousness of that being, which is needed for manifestation of that being.
Right.
Mm.
Because while describing tapas, you were talking about the being in the consciousness, the focus is the tapas. Rather, one thing is not clear is like what is in this scheme the ontology really, and if this is Samkhya, then what are the Vedantic traditions talking about, Vladimir?
Mm.
Right? For example, Advaita Vedanta, we have Dvaita, we have Vishishta Advaita.
Oh, they're all Samkhya. They're all Samkhya.
Yeah. So is it Advaita Vedanta? I mean, what I'm not able to understand is you mentioned all the 25 are irreducibles. That means you're saying there are 25 ontological categories, but Advaita says there is only one ontological category. So I'm not able to understand what am I missing.
Oh yeah, you want a formulation in the philosophical terms, yes. Well, Advaita is just saying that you have to leave Prakriti and go to Purusha, dissolve yourself in Brahman. Yeah? Purusha is the way to come to Brahman. So Purusha is individual soul which will dissolve itself in the Brahman as salt dissolves in the water. Yeah? So there is no more difference between salt and water, so you have it. But Advaita or Dvaita or Vishishta Dvaita, so they will all accept Samkhya as a fundamental. So how to separate oneself, so to say, how to separate Purusha from Prakriti, this is the Prakriti. Huh? You have to leave all this. You have to deal with all these, kind of stepping back from them, from the activities of Karmandrius, from activities of Indriyas. You have to draw back to the Purusha. You have to separate from the activities of the mind. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Vladimir, yeah, thanks for that. I mean, that is understood, Vladimir. But if somebody asks, are these, except for Purusha, the other 24 entities, are they real? What would be the answer?
Of course they are real. What is unreal here? Real is a term which is coined by, people of the mental structure. Real, unreal. Of course.
Or I would put it slightly different way, that in the Advaita Vedantic tradition, the other 24 elements are considered to be an illusion. They are non-existent or they are Maya. So if you're saying they are real, then this is not Advaita Vedanta. This is a different thing. But I'm asking that question: ontologically, are they real? Or
Maya, what they say, Maya, it's from the point of view of Brahman, yes? From the point of view from the beyond, they are temporarily becoming. And becoming cannot be totally real, yeah, because it is constantly in the flux of changing. So how come that it could be totally real? So it's like vidya and avidya, right? Knowledge and partial knowledge. Is partial knowledge true if it is in the flux and constantly changing? On this ground, it's a very mental treatment of the material. But in the Rigveda, for example, they speak about Ritam and Satyam. Yeah? There is a dynamic truth of becoming. What can you do with this? Where would you assign it? In the Vedanta, especially Advaita, there is no more distinction between Satyam and Ritam, the truth of being and truth of becoming. Because truth of becoming becomes an illusion.
right.
But it is all about beating around the bush on the level of philosophical definitions. Yeah? If you want to know the world, it has to be kind of more experiential in a sense, looking for it. Yeah? Are these real, really? If they are here, if you can see, hear, touch, is it real or not? or it's only an
Is the world
illusion?
real? Is the question.
Yeah, the world, Sri Aurobindo says everything is real in the world, and becoming and divine is real, and oneness of the divine and Brahman is real. Everything is real.
So what would you ascribe that thinking to? Which school, Vladimir? Is it
So that
Advaita?
everything is real?
Yeah.
It is Samhita,
Okay.
also Upanishads. Upanishads do not speak about Maya. Nobody speaks about Maya, truly speaking. And even Gita. Actually, all great synthesis of knowledge in India, Samhitas, Gita, Upanishads, even Tantra, does not totally think in that way as Advaita.
So more or less everything is considered real.
Yeah, it's only for the sake of making a Brahman more in focus. From the point of view of Brahman, every becoming is in the flux, and that's why, from the point of view of beingness, it is, truly speaking, not totally real. And that's why it is illusion. Illusion means that there is something there, but it is not going to stay. Yeah? So everything which is going to stay is real, which is not totally real. That means it's an illusion. But that's only a point of view, a very mental point of view. That's why Sri Aurobindo says that Advaita and Shankara are actually treating the whole material very mentally. I never could understand this until I started to analyze myself. It is really a mental treatment.
And it's the view that the world and everything is real. That is also different from Veda traditions, right?
No, that the world is real. Veda believes in it totally.
No. The Bheda and Abheda. So there is Advaita, there is Dvaita, and I'm also talking about Veda traditions. There are many of them.
Well, this is already a mental treatment. Yes, you can see it. It's for the mind, to satisfy the needs of the mind. The distinction, Bheda and Abheda, not distinguished. When Upanishads started to deal with this, with the mind, with the needs of the mind, mind has to be satisfied, our surface mind. So they started to treat it in this interesting way. You remember in Kena Upanishad, avijñātam vijñātam vijñātam avijñātam. Yeah? Avijñātam, it is not distinguished, vijñātam, by those who distinguish, and avijñātam vijñātam, vijñātam avijñātam, and it is distinguished by those who do not distinguish. So here you have it. So if you want to beat the mind, it is the way to beat it. You take Kena Upanishad second chapter, and it is there. You know? It's an amazing chapter. Yasya matam tasya matam. Yeah? Yasya amatam tasya matam. Matam yasya naveda saha. Avijñātam vijñātam vijñātam avijñātam. This is the whole answer to Bheda, actually. One shloka.
Difficult to comprehend right now.
Huh?
Difficult to comprehend right now.
Yes, with the mind it is difficult, nearly impossible. That's what Kena does. Yes, it says that it is unknown by those who think it's known, and by those who do not know, it is thought as known. Yeah? And it is undistinguished by those who distinguish it. So the one who distinguishes it, it is distinguished as undistinguished. You know? And by those who do not distinguish, it is distinguished as distinguished. So they think, oh, now I know it. Yeah. Now I understood it. Yeah, now I can see. And then the moment they say this or see this, then they fall into the category of those who do not know immediately. This is the trick. But there is more in Kena Upanishad. There's a very interesting. He says, Naham Veda Suveda iti. Naham Veda Suvedeti. Nona Vedeti Vedacha. Yonas tad Veda tad Veda. Nona Vedeti Vedacha. It's like, again, the game for the mind. Yeah. Naham, I am not. Naham Veda, Naham Yesu Veda iti. I do not consider, I do not think that I know it well. But I do not know that I do not know.
Right.
So I can't tell you that I know it well, but I cannot tell you that I do not know it. This is the very thin layer in between knowing and not knowing. The one who knows of us, who knows that means transcendental. He knows it. The one who doesn't know, doesn't know. So we have to really to know the transcendental in order to know all of this. Yeah? If transcendental for us becomes the aim for dissolution, to dissolve ourselves, then it is very different from knowing this. Yeah? So knowing all this, idam sarvam, there is a whole category of Upanishads created for this, all this. Yeah. So, sarvam idam sarvam, ishavasyam idam sarvam. All this is for habitation by the Lord. All this is a manifested world. It's world of Prakriti. Yeah? Is for his manifestation, and we can see that he is present in all the indriyas. It is his manifestation taking place in time. It is not a finished product. It is not something we can give as the final, being. But still, it is the being in becoming. It is being which is growing in consciousness. Yeah? All this is for habitation by the Lord. It is not yet inhabited fully, but it will be fully. The Lord will be revealed through all his embodiments. But it takes time. It is in time and space. And this is something which mind wants to cut off or to make shortcut through it. Yeah. Instead of speaking about this growing of consciousness, it wants to jump to something which is already, as you say, ontological reality, what is real. This is a very mental treatment.
Does the Upanishads and Vedas talk about the transcendental or the Brahman wanting to transform his own identity or self? I mean,
Yes.
we have heard.
Yes.
So this is his Leela where he is transforming himself?
Yes, he wanted to be many. That's what Upanishads say in Brahmanas. Bahusyam, I want to be many. Sadvitiyam aichat, he wanted the second. He was alone. He looked around, didn't find anybody except himself, And then he was not happy. He wanted another. Bahusyam, may I be many. It's everywhere. Yes? So how can you who alone are become many?
And does he intend to become somebody else? But
No.
because you mentioned previously, when he wants to rest from his own being, he becomes asat. And
No. Asat is his inherent freedom, so to say. It's inbuilt freedom of Brahman. It's Asat Brahman, yes? It's kind of Nirguna Brahman. So it is his spirit which allows him to be himself without manifestation, without being. It is something else. It's much higher or much more fundamental. To become many in time and space. That was the device, time and space. Purusha was sacrificed. The consciousness with its faculties was sacrificed for the sake of building him many. That's why most probably Samkhya treats Purusha as many and not as one. Just to avoid all those things. Yeah?
You answered my question, Vladimir, about the Purusha rising from the inconscient waters.
Oh, okay. In what way? Please share.
Where you said there's something so much deeper where you know and yet you don't know.
All that. Right. On the way of knowing, yes.
That was
Right.
the total opening of the consciousness.
Yeah, these are the Upanishads. They are very profound.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think
with the mind.
Yeah, and if you think also, then you have to have a right position of the mind. Exactly. I don't think that I know it well, but I don't know that I don't know. This is an important, it's not like I know only that I don't know of Socrates, yeah? He knows that he doesn't know, yeah? That is his formula. Here it's more subtle. I can't say that I know it well, but I don't know that I don't know. Yeah. So it's not that I know that I don't know, yeah? I don't know that I don't know. Doubled.
Beautiful. That answers everything.
Yeah, it's a right position of the mind, which allows you to examine the manifestation and yourself and spirit and all the relations without claiming of one final formulation by the mind. Yeah? There is no final formulation by the mind. Yeah.
Vladimir, one question is that when the being is liberated from these elements, then what are the faculties of the being to interact with Brahman at that level? Because I understand at that level, there is no manas, there is none of these elements. So how does the being interact at the level of liberation?
This is what you are referring to, the post-Vedic traditions, yeah, where the Advaita takes over actually. And it is not so in the Vedas and Upanishads. There is Vijnanamaya Purusha. There is the mind, there is a super mind. Yeah? Here we are dealing with mind as a lower faculty, as manas, sense mind. Yeah? And that's it. We do not see that the sense mind has the secret in the super mind, that it is a representative of the supreme truth, which we neglected altogether. We don't deal with this category altogether. We don't have intuitive mind, we don't have overmind, we don't have supramental overmind, we don't have triple supermind at all. We don't deal with these, as if they don't exist. And they exist, yeah? They are the reason why manas and buddhi are here.
Right.
They are their parents, or they are their projection or extension. So we do not know on kind of our scheme is partial here, though there are 25 tattvas, but this is a mental structure of consciousness. It is mentally perfectly describing the reality in the structure which we operate now by the mind. Yeah? But if you consider mind to be one of the faculties, and this is what I wanted to do today, but I didn't, and maybe next time I will do. What was the pre-Sankhyaik tradition? So mind was one of them, one of those indriyas. He wasn't a major synthesizer of indriyas. He was one of the faculties, equal to them. There was a different view, and we will maybe look into it next time. Yeah?
Sure.
And we kind of enrich our understanding of the material instead of kind of confusing, I hope. I'm already 15 minutes over. Yes. Om Shanti 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 Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Because I can go on. All right. See you.
Thank you.
Bye.